In the latest chapter of One Punch Man, Saitama grabs an angry Tatsumaki's arm, which is going to lead us into a pretty intense battle between the two of them. In this video, we will be exploring the next few webcomic chapters, which will feature major spoilers, most likely. Unless Murata and One decided to rewrite this fight for the manga, we have Tatsumaki going all out against Saitama, and it should make for some high-quality entertainment. Let's jump into the webcomic and start off from where the most recent manga chapter ended.
Grabs Tatsumaki's arm. This is the webcomic, but as you can see side by side, it looks almost identical. I mean, maybe not in terms of art, but in terms of layout, identical to the manga. And in fact, just a note, I've watched Murata draw the manga, and what he does is he basically has a copy of the webcomic next to him. For the most part, mimics the paneling one for one. I think unless there's a major change to the writing, like Cosmic Fear Garo, which was all Murata. Tatsumaki tells Saitama to let go, and Saitama says, "You're going too far." And that really angers Tatsumaki. And you gotta realize in this series, nobody can come close to her power. She's never really had any real threat against her, because we didn't get to see Tatsumaki versus Garo in the manga. Instead, we saw Tatsumaki versus Psychos Orochi. But even there, she was holding back her true full power until the very end of the fight. So she starts to use her psychic powers on Saitama and try and blow him away, to which he replies that this is the actual power that she used to blow Genos away before, if you remember One Punch Man Season 1, Episode 12. So she thinks that Saitama is part of the Fubuki group, and she's explaining to Saitama, "I was trying to tell my sister this, she doesn't need friends, she doesn't need a group, she needs to separate herself from everyone else, so she doesn't have anything holding her back or preventing her from getting stronger because she'll need to protect herself." And Saitama's like, "No, I'm not in a group and I'm not in a friend either." And she's like, "Well, what the hell are you doing?" I mean, I thought they were friends, you know, they had hot pot together and everything. But in any case, Saitama says, "No, we're just acquaintances." Fubuki looks kind of depressed there. Maybe he just hurt her feelings, maybe he just broke her heart. I mean, come on, I gotta ship Saitama and Fubuki. I hope that at the end of the story they're together. But it could be that Tatsumaki is actually the one in love with Saitama. He's the only one that can stand up to her and everything, so we could see some Saitama x Tatsumaki in the future of this series as well. But I think that Tatsumaki actually is going to ship with Genos, because they had that whole epic, you know, moment together versus Psychos Orochi. Romanticism aside, let's continue with the chapter. Saitama has a bone to pick with Tatsumaki because she's actually the one that destroyed his apartment. I believe it was when she did the giant Spear of Light Monster Association attack that ended up actually destroying his house. So he is pretty pissed about that, but he got a new house in the new Hero Association fortress that they built, as well as he got a couple pets, a couple monster pets, so I don't think he's actually too angry. But he tells her that you have a short temper and you should try and drink some milk, and it's actually hilarious. The dialogue between these two is so comical. Like, at one point, she's calling him a baldy and he's calling her a midget, and they're like just both going off, and the comedy here is going to be great, without a doubt. So what Tatsumaki tries to do to Saitama here is some psychic ability where she tries to twist your like chakra or ki, and it doesn't really work on Saitama. You can see him like vibrating. It also didn't work on Golden S or Garo, and she's like, "What? There's another guy that can withstand this?" Fubuki explains that my sister's never encountered anyone above her level, so likely she doesn't know that strength of will is directly connected to psychic resistance. It's like trying to pin down a huge boulder. Breaking Saitama's body won't be so easy, and I love this giant egg rock face of Saitama. Actually, by this point in the webcomic, One's art is actually not that bad compared to when he started. He improved so much. In any case, the two of them are going to keep smack-talking each other, Tatsumaki telling Saitama let go, and Saitama giving her a piece of his mind. And then he starts the name-calling, and that's when it all goes to hell. He says, "This is the power of Fubuki's acquaintance. You better remember that, you S-faced brat." Oh, that's not gonna go over well. And with that, Tatsumaki unleashes a thunderous crack of psychic energy. Saitama recognizes that this fight is about to get real, so he asks Fubuki to rescue all of the innocent civilians, and probably in the case of the manga, take Psychos away from here as well, because Saitama is going to try to lead Tatsumaki to an area far away where no innocent humans will get hurt from their battle. As Tatsumaki begins to release more of her psychic powers, Fubuki recognizes that the entire building is shaking and starting to crumble, and Tatsumaki says, "It's been a while since I've gotten mad." Pretty sure she got mad in the Psycho Orochi fight. It appeared that she did a few times, but look at this. As she starts to release more of her psychic powers, Saitama like bear hugs her, and then they take off out into the sky. And, I mean, obviously Tatsumaki can fly, so she's just like, okay, well, why don't I just fly this guy to the stratosphere and then drop him? Like, she has no bounds in terms of killing anyone, human, monster. It doesn't matter to her. This is what happens when you're on the top and you're so elite and so powerful that there's no challenge. You can feel like you can just do whatever you want. And in the most part, that's the case until she bumped into Caped Baldy. And this is going to happen for a while. They're flying around together in this bullet of psychic energy, basically flying around like two Dragon Ball Z characters battling with each other, flying through the city. She's smashing Saitama. At one point, she grabs his face and she's running his face through the ground as they're flying at super speeds. And she's like, how long are you going to keep grabbing me, you pervert? Which, by the way, Tatsumaki is actually 28, and even though she looks like a lolly, she is, a full-grown adult female, and she's just tiny. She begins to spiral him around in this sort of spin and, twist Saitama all around, all over the place, and showing off how strong she actually is. I mean, to be able to throw Saitama around is no easy feat. I mean, I think this is a huge testament to how powerful she is. And then she slams him down into the ground. Now, if you remember when Saitama fought Shoop in episode 10 or 11 of season 1, that psychic alien was able to create a psychic force as powerful as a black hole, and it didn't even budge Saitama. So the ability for Tatsumaki to be flipping and flying Saitama around with her psychic powers means she's stronger than a black hole. So that is a feat right there. I mean, I don't know if Murata and One are going to change it for the manga, but that's pretty impressive. And we all know that Blast uses black hole abilities, so she, I think Tatsumaki's power is way up there. I mean, to be able to be stronger than black hole and singularities with just raw psychic power, I think and I hope Tatsumaki will help in the fight against God in the future. So she's going to continue to battle Saitama now to get him off her. He finally lets go of her, and she flicks him away with psychic power, and you're going to see that this is going to be like a continual thing. Like, she's going to be like, okay, I'm tired, I'm done fighting, or thanks for letting me go, alright, let's talk this out, and then just keep attacking Saitama. She falsely promises that the fight's over, and then keeps trying to kill him. So she's going to create this, psychic tornado of energy. She starts to release more and more of her power. She's pissed off. Normally she can just fold any opponent that's in her face, but Saitama's one of the only people ever that doesn't fold, that she just can't control. She couldn't get him off her wrist until he let go on his own. So she uses this psychic tornado to take all this rocks and rubble from the surrounding area, and then starts to pellet Saitama like crazy with it, but he just simply and easily dodges all of it. She says, don't talk down to me, and she continues to pummel Saitama with this array of rocks flying at him, and he deflects one of them, which ends up going towards a bus or a truck full of innocent people. Funnily enough, Saitama can run faster than a projectile that he hit away, which is interesting physics on its own. It's like if a quarterback threw a touchdown, threw it way high up in the air and then ran to the end zone and caught his own throw. That's what Saitama's doing right here, but Tatsumaki lifts up the truck or the car full of people, and they're basically blaming each other here for possibly hurting civilians. So as they're flying through the city, they're in H City at this point, when a new disaster-level dragon monster pops out of nowhere, a gigantic, it says his name is Needlepoint Mouse. I mean, this thing is huge. He's just a titan, a complete giant, elder centipede size, and Metalbat actually shows up. He's the only S-class hero in H City who can defend it, but before he can even help, Saitama and Tatsumaki fly through his eyeball and just kill him. So the power of these two battling each other is so strong that just the collateral damage of them flying through the city, fighting each other, or at least Tatsumaki trying to kill Saitama, is enough to take out a dragon-level monster, a giant dragon-level monster. But the thing about dragon levels is it's so expansive because, the monster cadre were all dragons, and they were arguably stronger than even Orochi. And then there's dragon-level monsters that, sometimes the S-class just take out with these, and then sometimes they lose to. But in any case, dragon is still the highest tier, with the exception of God himself. So again, here Saitama is trying to talk to Tatsumaki. He's like, we're too far from where we were, let's go back. She lands, she's like, sure. And then she places her hand on his head and rockets him downward through a building. So as she's just trucking Saitama's head through the dirt, she realizes that something is actually chasing her, and we finally get to see Speed of Sonic Sound show up. He hasn't been in the manga in so long. I think the last time they showed him, he ate a monster heart and nothing happened to him. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. I always wondered what happened with that. I thought he was going to turn into some crazy monster ninja, but nothing happened to him. Maybe it'll happen later, I don't know. But he throws a bunch of shurikens at Tatsumaki, who just easily deflects them right back at him, and they explode on him, and that's pretty much the end of Speed of Sonic Sound, who is really just coming for Saitama. But I guess we get the answer there. What would happen if Speed of Sonic Sound or any ninja fought Tatsumaki? they'd probably get wrecked in an instant. Oh, and I almost forgot to add in a very comical manner, the reason why he got hit by his own shuriken, he was dodging him at first, but then he stepped in dog poo, and he says, "Curse you, Saitama," as his exploding shuriken land on him and blow him away. So as they finally got back to almost that hero fortress where they started their battle, Saitama grabs Tatsumaki's wrist once again. And this time he says, go ahead, go all out. Don't need to hold back now because there's no innocent civilians or city to destroy around them. And she's like, what the hell? You've been looking down on me this whole time. If I went all out, you wouldn't stand a chance. And she actually does. She actually ends up going all out. And then incredibly impressively is able to use her psychic power to actually lift Saitama. So the feats of this are ridiculous. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen a monster be able to lift Saitama with psychic power or even truly manipulate his body in any way. I mean, he's an impossible to move parody character that's impossible to beat. But she is like approaching parody level by actually being able to lift him. But by doing this, by literally using 100% of her power, I mean, she doesn't say that, but I'm pretty sure she is using 100%, it pushes her past the limit. Like, she can't breathe anymore or something. Like, she's done. Like, she pushed herself so hard against Saitama that she defeated herself. And in doing so, her head starts to bleed. Like, her whole face here is covered in blood. I mean, it's coming from her scalp, not her eyes or her nose. So I don't know, like, all of a sudden her face is just completely bloodied from trying to lift Saitama, which she actually did. Again, she actually did. And I mean, if we're going on a feat chart that is so insanely impressive to give us an idea of how strong Tatsumaki actually is, because we have so many feats from both Saitama and Tatsumaki. This is just, I mean, dude, she is way stronger than I thought. Because she's bleeding, Saitama says, look, you're not well, let's continue this another time when you get better. And she says, with a smile, okay, Saitama, I'll see you later. And then boom, just opens up a chasm in the floor that he falls into. Now, interestingly enough, this is actually what happened 2 chapters ago, chapter 176 in the One Punch Man manga, which actually happened from the psychic clash between Tatsumaki and the Tsukuyomi character. But here, it's in the manga. So this part here will obviously be redrawn by Murata, but we got almost an identical image of Saitama falling into a crack of rocks in the ground here, as we did in chapter 176. So Tatsumaki just starts to run away. She's like, finally, I got this guy. If I can't lift him, let gravity do the job and just open up a hole in the earth and let him fall down there. So she let him fall down into the ground and just sealed up that hole, so I guess he can't get out. But that's when Fubuki approaches her sister, and we could potentially get a psychic battle here between Fubuki and Tatsumaki. Now, it doesn't happen here in the webcomic, but, Murata and One can always change things for the manga, and I think that Fubuki was actually ready to fight against her older sister, but Saitama bursts out of the ground. Now, because a lot of this stuff kind of already happened in the manga, I think there's a good possibility we may get a psychic on psychic battle between the psychic sisters. They are on good terms, as we saw there, like eating dinner together, making plans about how to capture the Tsukuyomi and stuff like that, so maybe not, but I would be really happy to see Fubuki versus Tatsumaki. I think a lot of the fans and the shippers would as well. But in the webcomic, they don't get a chance to fight because Saitama bursts out of the ground, has this scary look on his face, and says, settle things with me first. And what he's trying to do is just wear Tatsumaki out to the point where she can't fight anymore. I mean, her face is bleeding from just lifting Saitama. Again, unbelievable feat that she was even able to do that. That pushes her into parody level character. And because Tatsumaki is so worn down from using all of this psychic power, Saitama actually suggests that the Fubuki group beat up Tatsumaki because she was threatening to kill them, which is the entire reason that Saitama got involved in the first place. Tatsumaki's just going to end up flying away. And Fubuki says, look, you know what? After all this, my sister has a point. You guys are really weak. So give it your all, increase your strength, or I'm going to leave you all behind. And so long story short, we get kind of the good ending where Tatsumaki doesn't kill anyone, but her message actually went through, and her message was that the Fubuki group, the Blizzard group, is a bunch of nonsense. The only powerful person, and which is completely true, is Fubuki herself, who continues to grow. Fubuki shouldn't surround herself with weak people who put her in danger, so if they don't improve and grow stronger, then Fubuki will leave them all behind. And the final few pages we get is a mini conversation of Saitama and Tatsumaki, where Saitama says, I think that your whole personality is a front. You talk about cutting off all ties with other people and just basically living for yourself, but then you're a hero. And the only reason that you're a hero is because you wanted to help people, because you want attention. So everything in your mind is pretty much all messed up, and perhaps Saitama is going to be the one that snaps snap some sense into Tatsumaki. This is some more character building we're getting going on here in the story, and leveling up Tatsumaki quite a bit, and her sister Fubuki. But this whole fight is really about Tatsumaki. It's about two things. Maybe getting her, for number one, to stop being so grumpy all the time and become more of like a good hero, and the second thing is to show her feats. Now she tries to snap back at Saitama, but is there going to be a crazy love triangle? Because she kind of had something going for Genos, and it appears that Saitama, because he's the only one that can actually challenge her right now, because Golden S is gone, or Platinum S is gone, Black, there's still one Black S, but, you know, he's pretty much gone, and Garo is pretty much gone, and, you know, in a sense, he's just back to his regular human form. So I think at this point, Saitama is really the only person, with the exception of Blast and God, in the story right now that is any match, so she may spur some sort of love interest or something like that for Goldie.